What if you woke up tomorrow in America in the year 1900? No smartphones, no internet, not even sliced bread. The average person lived just 47 years, and a simple infection could end a life. Nearly half the country worked on farms, and every day was shaped by hard physical labor. So what was everyday life really like at the dawn of the 20th century? A simple infection like pneumonia or tuberculosis could be a death sentence, and if you got sick, there were no miracle antibiotics to save you. The United States was a nation of about 76 million people, and a huge chunk of them, nearly 40%, lived and worked on farms. Picture this. You wake up before the sun, not to an alarm on your phone, but to the sound of a rooster. Your first job is to milk the cows, feed the chickens, and tend to the crops. Everything was done by hand or with the help of horses. It was tough, physical labor from sun-up to sundown. There were no supermarkets to just pop into. You grew your own food, and if you had a bad harvest, your family could go hungry. Inside the home, things were just as demanding, especially for women. Forget turning a knob for hot water. You'd have to haul water from a well or a pump, then heat it on a wood-burning stove or coal stove. That same stove was your oven, your heater, and your only way to cook a meal. Doing laundry was an all-day affair. It involved scrubbing clothes on a washboard, boiling them in a massive tub, wringing them out by hand, and hanging them on a line to dry. It makes you appreciate your washing machine, right? And what about light? Once the sun went down, most homes were lit by kerosene lamps. The soft, flickering glow might sound romantic, but they were smelly, produced soot, and were a constant fire hazard. Only a tiny fraction of city dwellers had access to the new marvel of electricity. For most people, the world became very dark and quiet after sunset. Now, let's talk about getting around. If you lived in a city, you might be lucky enough to catch a horse-drawn streetcar or one of the new electric trolleys. But the automobile? It was a crazy new invention, a luxury toy for the super rich. There were only about 8,000 cars in the entire country, and no paved roads or gas stations to speak of. For most Americans, the fastest way to travel long distances was by train. The vast railroad network was the lifeblood of the nation, connecting cities and moving goods and people like never before. A trip from New York to California, which takes a few hours by plane today, was a journey of several long days on a rattling, soot-covered train. What did people do for fun? Without Netflix or video games, entertainment was a much more social and local experience. People gathered for community picnics, church socials, and barn dances. In the evenings, families would read aloud from books or the newspaper, play musical instruments like the piano or fiddle, or engage in lively conversation. The Sears, Roebuck & Co. catalog was a major source of entertainment and dreams. People would spend hours flipping through its pages, marveling at all the goods you could order and have delivered by train, from clothing and furniture to farming equipment and even entire house kits. For city folks, there were new forms of amusement. Vaudeville theaters were all the rage, offering a wild mix of comedians, singers, acrobats, and magicians for just a few cents. Nickelodeons, the earliest movie theaters, were starting to pop up, showing short, silent films that mesmerized audiences. And who could forget the rise of the amusement park? Places like Coney Island in New York were magical wonderlands with thrilling roller coasters and fantastical attractions, offering an escape from the grit and grime of city life. Speaking of cities, they were growing at an incredible rate. Immigrants were pouring in from Europe, seeking a better life and finding work in the booming factories. But this rapid growth came with problems. Cities were often crowded, unsanitary, and polluted. Horse manure piled up on the streets, factory smokestacks belched black smoke into the air, and tenement housing was cramped and often lacked basic sanitation. It was a world of stark contrasts, where incredible wealth and innovation existed alongside extreme poverty and hardship. What about the food? Your diet in 1900 was heavily based on what was local and in season. You'd eat a lot of bread, potatoes, and salted or preserved meats. Fresh fruit and vegetables were a seasonal treat. Refrigeration was a luxury. Most people used an ice box, a wooden cabinet insulated with cork or tin, where a large block of ice delivered by the iceman would keep food cool for a day or two. The idea of having fresh strawberries in the middle of winter was pure science fiction. Communication was a slow process, too. If you wanted to talk to someone who lived far away, you couldn't just text them. You had to sit down and write a letter. The mail was surprisingly efficient for the time, with multiple deliveries a day in some cities, but it still took days for your message to reach its destination. The telephone existed, but it was rare and expensive. Less than 10% of homes had one, and making a call often involved talking to a human operator who would manually connect your line. So when we look back at 1900, we see a world on the cusp of enormous change. It was a time of back-breaking labor and simple pleasures, of new inventions and old traditions. Life was harder, slower, and in many ways more dangerous. But it was also a time of community, resilience, and a sense of wonder about the future. The people of 1900 laid the groundwork for the modern world we live in today, and understanding their daily struggles and triumphs gives us a much deeper appreciation for the comforts and conveniences we so often take for granted. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. Let me know in the comments what era you'd like to explore next. See you in the next video.